The Beyond Africa podcast. Welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast, the only platform where experts share their views on African issues. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome again to the Beyond Africa podcast with me, your host, Ngali Bernard. Today, we stay in Cameroon and we're discussing the presidential elections slated for October 12, 2025. As I have mentioned before, these elections are critical because the president is 93 years old, he's been president for 43 years, and he's running to succeed himself. If he wins, that is going to be a milestone because he would complete this mandate at 99 years, almost 100 years old. No one has seen this before. As critical as the elections are, many stakeholders are playing critical roles to ensure that the outcome is fair and respected by everyone, competitors, candidates, and everyone around the elections. But how are they doing this? That is a question we're going to answer today with my guests who are in the studio. They've carried out some citizen initiative that seems to be moving towards the right direction. But how far can they go? Are they succeeding? Are they having any challenges? Are they having any pushback? And how are the other candidates reacting to what they are doing? Are they simply supplementing what the candidates should do? Are they failing? Or is Elecam actually going to allow them to perform their role? These are the questions they're going to answer. And of course, they're going to tell us how far they have gone, what people can do to support them, and if they believe that their strides are going to lead to success. So with me today on the Beyond Africa podcast is Barrister Michel Ndoki. Barrister Michel Ndoki, you're welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast.
Good day, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which side of the world you are. And yes, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It really depends on where you are because I'm here in the middle of the afternoon and you are there in Cameroon. I don't know Yaoundé, Douala, Bamenda, or where in at night. So it really depends on where we are. It's good afternoon to me.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kingsley Shete, you are welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have both of you on this podcast today. I've spoken with other opinion leaders who are not directly involved with the elections, but now having you two who are stakeholders and playing a role of civil society in trying to see that the elections are free, fair, transparent, credible, and acceptable to all. It's good to hear from you what you think because all the other opinion leaders I've spoken to have told me they are not sure that any other person could be declared winner except Mr. Paul Biya. So I'd like to hear from you whether you think that your drive is going to lead the Elecam and the Constitutional Council to declare another person the winner of these elections. I don't want to say the person who is going to win, but the winner, person who is going to be declared winner. So I don't know who wants to take that question. Michelle, Kingsley? You decide who goes first.
I'll try and go first. Maybe Kingsley would want to share his view as well. I must say, as somebody who lives here and as a civil society leader and an activist, I really feel very uncomfortable and maybe a bit frustrated when I hear saying we know already, like we Cameroonians don't know how to express a view, and we matter so little that the one occasion that we will have in 7 years to make a difference, take back the control of our destiny, we will not be able to seize the opportunity and make it the difference and make the change that we're longing for happen. I believe those who are going to decide who runs this country for the coming 7 years are going to be Cameroonian citizens. As I usually say, they will do it by participating or by abstaining from participating. But definitely, the decision is going to be made by the Cameroonian people and by no one else. So to think that the incumbent candidate who has been there just because he's been around for a long time and is a head of state, and this is a very centralized power and all that, is enough to say the status quo remains and nothing can ever change this status quo. And certainly not the will of Cameroonians. I think it's very unfair to Cameroonians, and it's actually, it reminds me of other places in the world and in Africa.
We will get to that. We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah,
we'll get to that in a moment. I believe.
I think it is for the Cameroonian people to decide and no one else.
Thank you. I believe Kingsley shares the same opinion with you, and you, both of you, are leaders of the Nation Builders Initiative that has set out to recruit at least 30,000 poll watchers to watch the elections at every polling station in Cameroon. Am I right?
Yeah.
So what is the driving force behind this? Because we have Elecam that is an independent, autonomous, impartial election referee that is supposed to organize free and fair elections, and they're present in all the 30,000 polling stations. Maybe I'm getting the number wrong. They are present in all, Elecam is present in all the polling stations. So why would you get this initiative to hire, to recruit, train, and deploy volunteers to serve as poll watchers when Elecam is supposed to play that role?
Well, let me just start by saying that there's no evidence that Elecam is independent. It's supposed to be independent, but we have no evidence that it is. And that is partially one of the reasons why Cameroonians feel disillusioned. But disillusionment and staying and doing nothing is exactly what the status quo, what this current system wants Cameroonians to keep doing. So anyone who keeps saying, who starts by saying, oh, nothing is going to change, is actually echoing exactly what they want you to say. We are in 2025. We've got the internet. We've got social media. We've got everything that we never had in 1992, which people keep referencing. And we've got a lot more, part of which is experience, that we never had in 2018. I think Michelle had a situation in 2018 and she learned from that. So she's wiser than she was in 2018. That is something we never had. So to always sit back and be stuck in history, I think Cameroonians, and maybe because a lot of us studied history in school, we are always caught up in history. We like history so much that we forget that history should define the present and help us guide the future. I think that is a big problem with Cameroonians, and I think that's what they think that our project aims to change, is that we need to start living the present and aim for the future. And one of the things, the core issues, is what you said in your introduction. Biya is not young. Biya is an old man who probably would sleep. If he is very strong, he'll sleep 6, 7, he'll be awake 6 or 7 hours during the day. That is nature, that is biology. So most of the time he's probably sleeping because that's what old people do. So we need to face these realities and stop sounding like we are talking about a 34-year-old Biya or a 50-year-old Biya. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we are facing an election where the candidate himself has never openly told Cameroonians that he wants to run. Other people are saying he wants to run. But Cameroonians seem to continue to entrench that. I mean, it's like we are doing that self-fulfilling prophecy for him. Biya has not said he wants to run. A social media post that could have been written by Brenda said so. I don't know who is controlling. Maybe Junior wrote that post. I don't have any evidence that Biya says he wants to run for the elections. So these are the different factors that makes us believe that the situation is different this year. That's one. Secondly, to just answer your question, Elecam acts as an institution, but there is no, the more the merrier. That's the common saying, the more the merrier. If Elecam produces the result and we produce a parallel result, which is our process, because our process is actually what is based on what they call the process and results verification for transparency. It's based on that model by the NDI. So it is a parallel process that would produce the exact same thing. So with Elecam's own results and us confirming their results, we just give them the credibility that they are so desperate for. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so. So let Elecam be happy that we're actually helping them, give them credibility.
So you are concerned about Elecam's credibility, and you are also stating that the difference between the elections this time is now we have the internet, we have social media, and we have learned from the past experiences, meaning that the Nation Builders Initiative is going to capitalize on this and change the narrative and hold Elecam accountable, because ensuring that Elecam's results are verifiable means you're holding Elecam accountable. But let me come to you, Merton Doki. We're in 2025. You've just said, you said a moment ago that Cameroonians have the capacity to change the system. And Kingsley is saying that the Elecam has never been an independent and impartial institution as they are supposed to be. So there seems to be some gap there between the conception and the aspiration. What exactly are you going to do to ensure that Cameroonians who fear that Elecam is not independent, as Kingsley said, are going to wake up and fight the ghost or the evil of abstaining from the ballot box? Should they believe in the Nation Builders Initiative, and if yes, why?
Okay, I think you said the word that the most important word is belief. You know, perception is reality. The fact that we kept on saying for so many years that Paul Biya is undefeatable, that we need a leader to defeat Paul Biya, has built that conception, and to me it is a misconception that this candidate has something special that makes him undefeatable. He is, and everybody, sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you, but let's look at the structure of the electoral system in Cameroon. He appointed all the members of Elecam, appointed all the members of the Constitutional Council. The law enforcement machinery is at his beck and call, and he deploys them whenever he wants to, and they comply at all the times. And that is what he has used over the years to maintain his grip on power. So do you think that is going to change this time?
The only thing that he does not appoint is the electorate. And that is the only thing nobody is talking about. And that is the reason for the existence of the nation builders.
Somebody said he who votes does not matter, but he who counts and declares the results.
Let me land. Hear me out. Our contention is this is a moment for electors, voters, nobody else. Paul Biya himself comes back to us every 7 years to ask us, do you want me to remain on seat? The thing that has happened so far is that not enough of us were coming out to answer that question. How? Because we had been manipulated by this narrative that you're just describing as a fact, which is just a narrative, saying he owns everything, all the machinery is in his hands, this, that, and the other. He has the army, like army are interested or involved in elections. He has all the money, like money is involved in the election. What is involved in election? Let's go back to the basics. People, ballot boxes, ballot papers. That is how elections are organized, even in this country. So what happens, and Kingsley mentioned earlier, I'm speaking from experience. What happens? Not a lot of people turn up. I was doing the maths with some fellow compatriots a few days ago. Told them, see, we are supposed to be a maximum of 500 in each and every single polling station. In reality, the average number of voters in a given polling station will be around 270. In each, and polling stations are in schools. So in each school, you will have at least 10 rooms. I've seen double, triple that number, but at least 10 classrooms, each classroom being a polling station. And you follow me and you understand why this is important. So you have at least 10 of those. Imagine we have the number, the rate of participation that is regularly published over 60, 50, 60, 70% of participation rate. That will mean between 1,500 and 2,500 people turn up in a single election. Now, you remember gatherings for funerals or for weddings in our families. When you have 2,000 people gathered in a place, you see visually what that looks like. Is your recollection of elections in the past that you have at even half that number turning up on a single day during elections? Even in town, I'm not even talking remote areas, and remote areas are where the biggest number of voters is located. But we never see that. And that means people have calculated that the actual participation rate is around 30%. So what happens after the day of the election is during that time, between the day of the election and the day the Constitutional Council will announce the result, they redo the maths to inflate the number. And even by doing that, they have never, ever granted Paul Biya more than 2,500,000 votes. At a time, there were 6 million registered voters. At the time, this number increased to 7 million. We are still looking, and even you will notice if you look at the numbers that over the years, the number has not grown significantly. So in 2018, we demonstrated, we showed to the world with the document handed over to us by Elecam themselves that the results that were being published were not the true reflection of Cameroonians' will. Why did we say that? Because the statement that was used by the National Commission to come up with the final figure of 71% in favor of Paul Biya were not obviously the true statements. Why? You have a table sheet, unsigned document with a table with numbers on it, and you have a signature paper separated, okay? In the few instances where we did not challenge the results, that is Littoral, Center Region, West Region, the statements look like this. First page, name of all the participants, signed by all the participants. Second page, list of the statement that they received from each division, signed by the participant, so on and so forth until the last page where you had the table after corrections, justified corrections. Same table, same as the other pages, the table, the page of the table with the result per candidate was signed by everyone. in all the instances where we challenged the result, as I said, you did not have a statement with the signature of the participants. You had a separate sheet. So we could not trust those documents as being the true reflection of the counting of the votes. What that means to us, what is the take home here? If we are not there during the counting, us, the voters, anything can happen, starting with inflating the participation rate, changing the names of who the results are allocated to. And actually, when Cameroonians say, oh, Biya will win anyway, that's exactly what they mean. That election will be rigged, and as a consequence, the incumbent candidate will win again. But how do you prevent? The question now for you as a voter, as a Cameroonian citizen is, do you want to prevent that from happening? If the answer is yes,
we are going to talk about what can be done to prevent it from happening. I just want to run down a few points that I noted from you.
Our project. Yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment. I just want to run a few points that I noted. One is the math that is done between the election day and the declaration of the results does not reflect what actually happened at the polling stations. Is that a fundamental argument you're making here?
That is the fundamental argument.
Okay.
And that
if that is a fundamental argument, and there is a provision in the Electoral Code, I'm forgetting the number, it says that only elecams, tally sheets or procès-verbal or report is of any legal value in case of contestation of the results.
What the provision of the law says.
What does it say? Correct me, please.
What the provision of the law says.
Correct me.
The provision of the law says in case there are conflicting statements. That is, in the polling station, you have a statement from Elecam, and you have a statement, that the copy that is given to the various representatives of the other candidates. Mind you, people, again, the narrative, the perception, oppose a Elecam statement with other candidates' statement. Not CPDM candidate statement versus another candidate statement. All right.
I think you're one of those who came out with the theory that the CPDM, the CPDM, Elecam, and the administration act like the Blessed Trinity, always acting together. So can they have different statements?
But that does not mean we should condone that. This is not something that we should say is okay. As a voter, if you realize first that the onus is on Elecam to have genuine or authentic statement, they are not supposed to traverse to change the result. It is illegal. It is even a criminal offense. So we should not talk about it like it's not a big deal. Hold on. Now, when as a voter, you realize you cannot trust Elecam, you have to understand how and when the result might be tampered with. The statement might be tampered with. That's what I was saying about the statement. You have a Elecam statement, you have another party coming with their own statement saying, oh, but in this polling station, this is what my own statement says. You are in front of the Constitutional Council. The law says if you have two conflicted Mr. President or members of the Constitutional Council, the statement from Elecam shall prevail. That is not what we are about here. We are about making sure we know the truth earlier on. Remember, The day of the election, the law states that results are published by Elecam, not by anybody else. Published in the polling station by Elecam. Trouble is, we don't know for a significant representative number of polling stations what the results are. So if and when they are changed, we can't know. The only thing that we need to do to prevent or fight rigging is to know the truth. Other challenge has always been other candidates do not have the means to send representatives everywhere. Trouble is, they did not try to correct that weakness. And I'm not blaming, I'm stating a fact. Work has not been done. And I'm not blaming because actually it is unfair on this political party to put them under the pressure of having representatives everywhere, like they do have the money. In other countries, the state will give you the money to do that. In our country, you are not given that money. So then you might not have that possibility. But let me tell you, one thing that you always have in all the polling stations, even when CPDM is not around, is voters. And that is how we came up with that project.
Let us talk about this in a moment. Thank you very much for this clarification, especially on the legal lapses that are in the law. But just one quick follow-up question on this. So what are your plans once you have the reports from the various polling stations as declared by Elecam, pasted out on the walls by Elecam? You make the pictures, I suppose. If still at the Electoral Council of Elecam and the Constitutional Council, Elecam produces results that do not reflect what you have found on the field or what you have tallied from Elecam's own declaration of results, how do you plan to go about that?
That's a good question. I think it's coming from the understanding that no matter what happened, Elecam will do whatever Elecam is always doing. But I will tell you, they've always done that because the circumstances were different. It is very easy for you to present something and say this is the truth if nobody can prove otherwise. The difference in this particular instance is we Cameroonians who have documented as soon as the day following the day of the election and published on the 13th of October 2025, the result as they appeared. This is what happened in Senegal in 2024. And you saw the difference. For the first time in how many elections somebody won during the first round? Because this time around, it was not all given to the state-owned organization or state-controlled organization to tell us what is happening. If you control the narrative and what you're saying is the truth, you're putting Elecam agents in a position of saying, okay, am I going to lie blatantly in their face by producing fake results? Or am I going to back off and say, I'm sorry, as far as my polling station is concerned, I'm sorry, I cannot say anything else than what truly happened. That's how you change a regime. That's why that's what happened in, for instance, the Gambia. I think Kingsley can tell you more about that. So what is important here is really for us to understand how these things work and to create a different dynamic. immediately, and you see, for instance, in 2018, for the first time in the history of elections, a candidate came out and said, I won. Remember, the panic in that very old and very powerful regime that you're talking about. What was their reaction? It was not to say, oh, he's lying. These are the true results. The reaction was to say, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. It's illegal to do that. Why did they not come up with the alternate result, the true result according to them? Because those were not ready by them. You understand?
Thank you, Michelle.
So if you control the narrative, you control the fate of the country.
Thank you, Michelle. I understand here that the fundamental issue is to get the data and then use that data to control the narrative and put Elecam on their feet to ensure that the Elecam produces the actual results that they got on the field.
Exactly.
I am happy you agree that I understand your objective out here. Kingsley, let me come over to you. It's so sweet and enticing, everything that Michelle has elaborated here, especially with explaining the legal lapses and how to fight them. Now, I have seen Michelle crisscross Cameroon. I see her in Marua, Yagua, Bamenda, Limbe, and she's doing all the work. But that is recruiting the 30,000 volunteers to do this job. 30,000 is not a small number. That is a huge number. So, Kingsley, tell me, how are you going about this?
It's not a small number, and you are perfectly correct. But it also highlights the fact that Cameroonians choose to live in misery instead of liberating themselves. It's also not a small number because people are still do not fully understand how elections are rigged. I would just use a hypothetical situation here so that I can be able to really explain. And because I am hoping that through your program, some people will understand why they need to, rather than just vote. If we had 1 million voters voting the opposition, then we should have 1 million people joining our program. It's not that complex, because if you are voting, then you want that vote to count. So we are not asking them to do anything extraordinary. We are not asking them to do, it's just to vote and make sure the vote is counted. We've just given them a platform to ensure that that counting is done. And just to buttress the point Michelle made, do you know that hypothetically the head of Elecam, I don't know who he is, I don't just know, I've seen his name in Yaoundé,
Eric
might not
Esuse
actually change the
or
results
Abrams?
yes, he might not actually change the results. He actually doesn't have to change the result. What if the results are changed by the person who collected the results from DOP and has to take it to Bamenda, and he changes it along the way? What if the person who takes it from Furawa changes it along the way? What if the person from Kuseri changes it along the way? What is the person? Those are the people who can actually change the results. And the person in Yaoundé that you are asking him to do something different, the evidence in front of him is showing him something different. Why should he change that? That's the first thing. Then we always say Clement Atangana should declare. Clement Atangana goes by evidence in front of him. So if the Elecam boss in Yaoundé sees results that are showing that someone else won, and they had been changed along those different dusty roads and muddy roads that lead all the way to Yaoundé, they have been changed there. He is seeing that evidence in front of him. You're asking him to present something different. Why? So you want him to fabricate something else? No, he cannot. Clement Atangana goes by what Elecam has given him, and you have to contradict that by what you have. Now, if Elecam has given Clement Atangana, we are always blaming him. But what is the evidence that Clement Atangana actually saw something different and presented something else? We don't have that evidence. So Cameroonians need to know that we are the ones who empower these guys to be able to look like they have the power to rule our lives and declare whatever they don't have. The head of Elecam cannot categorically tell you that he knows what happens with the results while they are transmitting. I will give you an example of Fondo Gagwani of Bali. He's late now. He's the founder gone missing. That phone back then used to carry his own ballots from his palace and take them to this thing to Bameda himself, and he always had 100%. He was both a mayor and a parliamentarian. So that is because while everything was happening in there, he controlled the narrative and no one. But guess what? One man, a disabled man, I'm telling you this, I don't know whether it's 2004 or which of those years, but one disabled man challenged the phone at the polling station at one point and said, I need to be able to take this in because I didn't vote you, so you can't have 100%, and the phone shot him. That phone is the first phone. I think he made history by becoming the first phone to go to prison. He went to prison in Dub. So let us not underestimate what happens at the local levels and keep always focusing at the highest level, because everyone focuses on the on what happens in Yaoundé and
Kingsley.
ignore what happens in all the villages and towns, which is where the elections probably are rigged. And those are the hungry people that you can actually manipulate. With
Kingsley.
2,000, 3,000, 4,000, you can, because our people are hungry.
Yes, Kingsley.
They are underpaid. These are the people that we can actually use to be able to change a result. So that is where we come in. We ensure that Elecam's result at every local level is transmitted to our application. And so we are not changing Elecam's result, and no one has the power to change, because if we have evidence that it's been changed.
Let's break this down, Kingsley. Let's break this down. Let's break this down. I want us to make this your point very pedagogical so that the viewers get it step by step.
Yes.
Kingsley?
Yeah. We are with you.
Yeah. I want to drive this step by step with Kingsley so that he's so interested in it and he sees it as a route to success. But I want us to take the passion out of it so that the people understand it step by step, right? What I understand from Kingsley is, I hope he comes back.
I'm here.
All right. Let's take this thing step by step, Kingsley. So you're saying that elections are won from the base, not from Yaoundé. The people who organize the elections at the local level are those who can have the real statistics. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
And you're inviting Cameroonians to pay attention to where they vote so that they can have the data same day, same time, and communicate it to you. We'll talk about the application later on. That is what you're saying. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Then again, you are saying that the people in the voters are those who are so committed to the elections and they want to see change, and they are the people who can be targeted for manipulation and corruption, but because they are the victims of bad governance and oppression, they are the ones who can easily resist corruption and bribery and intimidation to submit the right results to the platform Nation Builders is building. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, tell me, with all these, how are you going to ensure that? Let's start with the recruitment. How is the recruitment going?
Well, it's tough, as you might imagine. We are pushing. We are getting a lot of interest. Not least, and I would say this, and people will be surprised, that we're having a lot more engagement from the Northwest and the Southwest regions, where people actually thought people were going to be scared. And it fits into what you're saying, that when people have been so pushed to the wall, they react the most. They tend to want to do things to change their story. Secondly, it's not just that. I think, in fact, let me correct that, scrap that. From the far north regions, the northern regions are the most, followed by the Northwest and Southwest. So actually, the areas with the most challenges in Cameroon are the areas where young people are keen to say that never again. Things are going to change and they are going to take control of their destinies. A lot of them tell us that, look, we want to know whether it is us the problem because we didn't vote enough, or whether it is actually the system, because we keep blaming the system, whereas maybe it's just because we are not enough. We don't come out enough. And that is the simple argument here. We are not saying that we are categorical at this point that the interim the incumbents might not win. We don't know, but let's be sure. Because like I said, I asked someone the other day, We say he stole the elections, and someone asked me in 2019 on the streets of London, where is the evidence? I did not have. My MP here asked me when I wrote her an email saying, "Do not challenging the UK government for confirming for sending congratulations to Biya." And I said it was premature. The elections were rigged, and she said, "Do you have some evidence to send to me to back up what you're saying?" The only thing I came up with was anecdotal that Clement Atangana had been built a house by the government, and that's all that she could put there. Is that evidence to show there was rigging? No. But do I know in my heart that there was? I know. So I am basically going by emotion rather than evidence. Emotion in court, in the court of public opinion, internationally, your emotions and our thoughts don't mean anything.
Okay.
Now, just to capture on that point so that I can highlight, I don't forget the case of the Gambia that Michelle mentioned. Yaya Jammeh was more brutal than Biya. Biya is a passive dictator. Yaya Jammeh was an active dictator. He controlled all the state institutions, but the people, civil society created a parallel like what we've created. One thing, they never had the app, but the people were more ferocious. They were going they gathered the results and did exactly what Elekam was doing. As Elekam was, their own Elekam, obviously, was moving with their own with results. They were also moving those step by step, and by the time it got to the center, they also had theirs at the center. So we have actually fast-tracked the process and made it such that we can actually use technology to do what they did, because we don't have the money and the resources to do what they did. But we don't also need to repeat that because we have technology to help us.
We'll
what they did was that they
presented to the polling stations and the app in a moment. I still want us to talk about the recruitment drive, because I believe that is the most important thing. If you don't recruit enough volunteers, you're not going to get this off the ground. So have you identified all the polling stations throughout Cameroon already?
Yes.
And you believe that you need 30,000 volunteers to man all the polling stations throughout Cameroon?
At least 30,000. The reason is because there are 32,000 something. But now one of the things that with this is that it you have to know that Cameroon's we already know the numbers. For example, we know the numbers. If, for example, I don't have volunteers in the south and the east regions, these two regions, let's say I have 0 volunteers there, it doesn't change the outcome of the elections.
Okay.
Yes. The reason is that statistically, the two regions have just about 700,000 voters, just equal to the number that is in the Northwest region alone. So when you start looking at that number, and then you look at how elections have worked in Cameroon, we know that we don't have to match every polling station by polling station, but we need to be able to cover enough. It's a little bit obvious, a representative sample. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that in the urban areas, political parties are definitely going to have representatives with whom you could collaborate. We'll talk about collaboration with political parties in a moment. So where are you seeing the highest recruitment drives? I know you mentioned the far north, the northwest, and the southwest. What about the center, the littoral, the west, and the Adamawa?
Adamawa is Ganot.
Yes.
Yeah, Michelle.
Actually, what we've seen in the past few days, and this is a learning from everything that we've tried to recruit, we started by trying to engage the elites. You see, religious leaders had come out with very strong declarations about the hunger for change. So we thought it would be good to go to them so that they help spread the word about this initiative and get us a lot of volunteers. We went to traditional leaders around Cameroon. We went to political parties, leaders, etc. And we realized in time that the most efficient way to engage and get volunteers involved was to talk to them directly. when we started communicating in the direction of the public, we saw a huge increase in the number of volunteers that are enrolling, because I don't like it when we say we are recruiting. We're not recruiting. Cameroonians are coming together. People are enrolling in the collective initiative. And we see a lot of people, in their hundreds, enrolling every single week in Electoral in Center. We've seen that from the get-go in the northern part of the country. But our challenge now, and thank you for this, what you're doing, is to get the number to contact the platform known across to the potential volunteers in the remotest areas. Because yes, when I went to Mokolo, when I went to Yagwa, when I went to Kaeli, I will hear terrible stories about the way the elections are rigged there. But because they know about this initiative, now they know somebody can report on it, and that galvanizes them to protect their vote, because they know there's an organization, a national organization, that will protect the truth for them at a national level, not just at a local level. So we are happy because we are present in the remotest areas thanks to social media. You can reach Pus in the far north. You can reach Barre Bakem, like I saw a lot of people writing to me from Barre Bakem in the Litoral region. You can reach Lolodorf in the South region. Somebody will write you from Lolodorf in South region and say, I want to be part of this. And as the word is spread and the number of the WhatsApp number to declare that you want to be part of this organization is secularized, published, known by the people, we will get the number that we want. But I want to reassure the viewers, we don't need to get to 30,000 volunteers. Everybody where I've been talking to is saying, we want people in all the polling stations, and that is fine. But we want also to tell them that it is not necessary. The NDI process and result verification for transparency methodology is based on inferential statistics. What you need is quality in the reporting. And quality means having a representative sample of polling station you are getting the results from. If you've covered, as we've covered, the whole country in terms of every single region and now every single division, that when you get to every single constituency, you know you can have a representative sample of polling station, even if they represent 30% of the total, provided they are spread across the country, you have results that are correct with a 0.5 or 0.9 margin, error margin.
Error.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you,
So
Michelle.
we are after a representative number of observers, and we are getting that. If we have in some countries, because this program has been run in more than 170 elections in the world, in more than 85 countries over the past 30 years. In some countries, they did have something like 10% of the polling station covered. They still came up with a figure with a margin with a 0.5% error margin. So because it is so important and Cameroonians are so enthusiastic when they come to know about this initiative, they want to be everywhere. Once we have everyone everywhere, we will be able to do, we are getting ready for that, our app, our solution, because it's not just an app. It is an app, but it's also
Michelle,
a solution.
we will get to that in a moment. We will get to that in a moment.
Just 1 second. It's an app, but it's also a solution that allows you to report through SMSs. So everywhere, you see, it was important. So everywhere you will be able to send the result, whether or not you have internet access. And that is the kind of information that brings confidence in this project from Cameroonians.
Thank you so much. And this podcast is dedicated at advancing any cause for good governance. Therefore, we must contribute towards the development or towards the attainment of these results. And what we are going to do is I'm going to get your details and we'll run those details on the screen, the contact number, email address, or whatsoever that anyone can use to get to you. We'll run that on the screen and we'll add it in the comments section. So any Cameroonian who is interested to do this should get to you and contribute towards the development of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us now, you are watching the Beyond Africa podcast with me, Ngalim Bernard, your host, and my guests, Michelle Ndoki and Kingsley Shete, who are members, co-founders of the Nation Builders Initiative that are doing everything possible to ensure that results of the October 12, 2025 presidential elections in Cameroon are credible, transparent, and respected. Before I get to the next point I wanted us to talk about, you said something that viewers may consider to be a contradiction to what you've already said. You said you need the results from every polling station, the evidence, so you can challenge the results. But now you're saying an inferential statistics or a representative sample of the results could serve that purpose. So I just want you to clarify what you mean here so that viewers understand that you don't need people in all the 30,000 polling stations because only some of the polling stations could serve that purpose.
All right. Let me take an example. When they tell you 52% of the population in a given country are female, they don't go around counting every single woman in the country or girl, right? They take a representative sample of the population, do the counting in that sample, and then statistically, they can project it to the number of people in the country to say this is the proportion. In this representative sample, if we have this figure, we can say using inferential statistics that this will be the proportion in the whole population. So inferential statistic is used everywhere and about everything. You don't go about all the figures that you come up with. When you say, for instance, during the day of elections in your own country, that this candidate has won, this is the percentage. It is not based on final counting. You know that, right? That very day counting is not over. Okay? How do they come up with the result? By using inferential statistic method. So this is the method that we are suggesting to use. Now, it will be ideal to have people in all the polling stations. First of all, that will mean we have an updated list of all the polling stations. We do have the latest published list. The difference between that latest published list, it was published in 2024. We got that number. And at that level, we were talking about 30,200 polling stations, roughly. But as we go, Elecam continues to create new polling stations. And you know, because you've watched the news, that candidates have been struggling to get Elecam to publish that list. That is the reason why, if you want to have, if you want to have representative in every single polling station, it might be a challenge. And it is better to have 100% of the reports in the representative sample of polling stations than to have 60 or 70% of the reports in the whole country. Okay, to reduce the error margin, you need to get 100% of the reports from your qualitative sample. That is the reason why we are saying we are targeting the 30,000 as Kingsley is explained earlier, but it does not depend on us. It depends on Cameroonians. We just want to reassure them, even if we don't get to that number, the way this organization is structured, we are aiming at having representatives in the observers in the representative sample of polling station. I hope I make sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I hope viewers understand why you are using a representation with a recognized margin of error over an absolute representation, which doesn't mean that you would eliminate any person if they show up. Any person who comes in and in fact you want to have representatives in all the polling stations.
Yep.
That is the objective. But if you cannot,
Yes,
then you would assign the resources the way they are.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the credibility of the electoral registers, but I'm having a conversation with Madam Kawala after you. The next podcast is going to be with her, so we're going to go into the details of the credibility of the electoral list. So I would spare you for that. Now, how many people have shown interest so far? Do you have a specific number?
Kingsley, you want to take that?
So, now showing interest, we've had a lot of interest, whether these, because one thing that of how we do it is that people come, they first tell us that they want to volunteer. Once they say that, then we ask them specific information. One is to establish what their polling units are. So that what Michelle just said, that we might end up getting the actual polling stations, is because each individual knows their polling unit. So people are telling us their polling units themselves, because that's what is on their voters card. So we are compiling those on a spreadsheet, and already it's assigning codes to those polling units. So we had a possible coalition with another civil society, which already had 12,000 people. We are seeing how to bring that on board. On our own, we have had over 7,000 people show interest. Now, we are converting those because we do not count someone unless we have gotten their details. Because one, the details, like I said, confirms their polling unit. Secondly, it confirms they are registered to vote, because that is their only visa to enter the polling station. If you're not registered to vote, you cannot be a volunteer, because you cannot enter the polling station legally to observe an election for which you didn't vote. So, but when you have a voter's card, you are legally allowed. No one can stop you. If stopping you from observing is stopping you from voting, which is illegal. So I've just answered the question many people would have been having. What about security? Or it doesn't matter, because as long as you can vote, you can observe. Now, and when we have those information, then now what we do is that we now they take the test step. We are going to start doing training. So we have thousands of people who have shown interest, but we are working through all this to be able to confirm their exact polling units. Another thing is, if we have, which is what Michelle was saying about representative sample is very important, is that we can have 30,000 people, but 10,000 of those are from the littoral.
Yeah.
Doesn't help.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yes, so it's not just about the number; it's about how they cover. Now, when you look at the number of registered voters, the three northern regions have 2.7 million voters. Biya won the last election by 2.5 million. The Grand South, the east, south, and the center region is lower. It's about 26% of the total vote. I think the Northwest and the Southwest have 13%. So when you start looking at these percentages now, we are going to be trying to see how we can allocate, because what I would tell you now, and you can write this down and your viewers can take note of this, is that this election will be won by a few hundred votes. It's most likely there is going to be a few hundred votes. I am not going to campaign for anyone because we are going to be impartial. But when you look at the 12 candidates, there's no one who is going to get now 2.5 million votes like Biya got. Biya got 2.5 million because the Grand North, Bello Buba, and Issa Chiroma gave him 1.5 million. So the rest of Cameroon gave him 1 million votes in 2018. That's something most Cameroonians don't realize, is that most Cameroonians did not vote for Biya. Most of those who are registered to vote, with all this noise about Elekam, Biya got 1 million votes from 7 regions.
And that is rigging included.
Rigging included. But there is a limit to rigging. There's a limit to rigging because you cannot get 400,000 votes from the South, which has 300 and something thousand registered voters.
Exactly.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. The mathematics, the statistics, not my forte, but I'll try to discuss that in the future, maybe with you or with some other person, so that we look at the probability of and the numbers, how the numbers are working in this game. We'll look at that sometime in the future. I want us to talk about the access to the polling stations and collaboration with political parties, candidates, and parallel organizations. I know Abdurrahman Baba is running something like this. Are you in collaboration with him and other non-profit organizations? I know the Catholic Church, the Episcopal Conference used to do something to like this. So are they still doing it? And are you working with them? How is it working out so that there is efforts are concentrated for efficiency?
So we've been in regular touch with all the above seated. I had personally several conversations with Mr. Abdurrahman Baba about us working together, and he actually was the first one to give us the updated number of polling station that we started working with. So yes, it seems easier for us from civil society to work together than it is for political parties or political leaders. The thing is, we need to make sure that the people we work with, like X Zafran is a young rapper. He's the one, our partner who engaged and mobilized 12,000 at the time. I think the number has increased now to 15,000 volunteers to observe and protect the vote, as they put it. So we are working now as a coalition of civil society organizations. There's another one, Force Alternative pour le Changement, that we started working with a few weeks ago. And we are going actually to come up with those results as a coalition of organizations. And I think that will put away any risk of the credibility of the the results being challenged. It will not be about one person or one organization. It will be a collective effort. And I think that is the core gift that Cameroonians want to give themselves, is to own their destiny and control the narrative.
So Cameroonians are looking for a coalition candidate, and apparently the coalition is coming in from the civil society side, not from the candidate's side.
Yes, because the reality is, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, we don't need one candidate or two only. You know, that is one thing that personally I find very frustrating. Then when we are talking about a consensual or a coalition candidate, nobody thinks about putting Paul Biya in that coalition.
He already has his coalition.
Yeah, it's broken.
Yes,
Coalition is broken.
why would we think this coalition is a good coalition and he could not do better by saying, I should not run? We are asking other candidates that put in the effort, came up with a program, invested money in the effort, etc., to give up on their ambition for the benefit of the country. But we are not asking that to the one person that is even unable to stand up. You know, I started a challenge calling on the head of state. I said, Mr. President, we want you to come out as all the other 80-something candidates. Come out, stand in front of your youth, your compatriots. Tell them in a speech, 30 minutes, not more, why you think we should still trust you after 43 years and counting of the debacle that we are living in. You do that, and we can take you seriously as a candidate. But this is to tell you, when you come to this, we get to that narrative about the coalition of candidate or consensual candidate. This is a competition. We Cameroonians are not stupid. You put in front of us 12 candidates, 11 candidates, 8 candidates, we will be able to say, this is the best. This is the most serious one. That is what we've been doing for the past elections. The first 2 or 3 generally gather more than 80% of the total vote. We can't tell people that if we have more than 3 candidates, they will not be able to choose. They will be able to choose. That's the first thing. Secondly, the only coalition that matters is the coalition of voters. Let us be clear that we will protect our vote and that we know what the kind of leaders we will have for the coming 7 years will look like. That we will go out in our numbers to cast our vote. We know what we expect. What is the kind of leader and leadership that we expect for this country from 2025. And you will see our own coalition as voters will be the only coalition that matters.
Absolutely. Voters need to take all elections seriously and pay attention, because the question has always been coalition of candidates, and that coalition has worked sometimes, but it has died on the eve of the elections. If we talk about 2004 elections, and you see, I don't believe that a coalition is a must in any elections. It's welcome if it happens, but it's not a requirement if candidates are looking for credible elections. So, but are political parties collaborating with you? Because one other factor is political parties and candidates have the right to assign poll watchers. So are any parties coming out to collaborate with you to facilitate the assignment of poll watchers from the side?
We've had a conversation with a certain number of political parties. We opted not to partner with them officially because that would put us in a difficult situation. We need to be neutral and impartial. That's one. Secondly, nation builders, the people that enrolled in the program, the project, sometimes come from political parties, and they come from several different political parties. We are trying to show to Cameroonians that we can be united behind a matter of common interest and still live with our diversity, our difference in opinions, political opinions, and different religions, and you name the difference. And we can do that only if we stay away from the political parties' wahala.
Fantastic. Let's start thinking about rounding up. But before we do that, tell me about the technology you are going to use. I know for a given that about a week before the elections, internet is going to be weak. On the election day and the day following, internet is going to be dead. Then the third day, there could be some internet. So how are you going to document, transmit, and have these results on your platform? Maybe Kingsley tells us that, or Michelle, who choose?
Yes, Kingsley, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, so we already factored that in, and we already anticipated it. And one of the things that I would just point out is that because we are doing this, don't be surprised that they don't see the need anymore to cut the internet, because they know that is going to make no difference whatsoever. Because we created a system that works without internet, where people you can use even a Chironko phone, and you send the information as they have written it out on that board. You write it out, and then you send as a text message, because each volunteers polling unit will be assigned a specific code. So not everyone can send information to our system, so that we don't have the system flooded with fake information and overrun. So if someone is waiting and thinking that day they might sit down in one room and then be sending information, it won't work. So and that's why it's not an app that is found on the App Store, where you download and then just do what you want with it. We have it on a server, so it cannot be hacked. It's separate on its own, so it can collect text-based information and then convert this and then now display it, because it will actually, when it comes from Libya Lem, for example, the results comes, people will be able to see that the results has come from this polling unit, that these results have come. And if there are discrepancies, the system flags it. Like if we, for example, we have 3-4 results from one polling unit and there's a discrepancy, it will flag it, and then it will be able to look at what exactly is this discrepancy. So we've developed it in such a way that people can text from any nook and cranny, and effectively everyone who is volunteering has a phone. So that was the biggest challenge, was what if they don't have the basic device, but everyone who is volunteering has a phone. I think my mom has a phone, my dad has a phone, so everyone today has a phone. So basically the one tool that could have been difficult would have been phones, but everyone has it. So it works without internet. Now the perfect situation is that the pictures of the process verbal, just take it, and it's easier. Just take a picture and upload. But if it doesn't work, the text works. Now, keep the image on your phone, because once the internet comes up, what it does is it catches the image. Once you send it, it holds it. If there's no internet, once the internet picks up, it will upload. So that is your backup plan again. So either way, we are going to have the text-based results immediately, because people can text them, and then we'll have the images afterwards, because it's important to take that image of that Elecam one. Another thing that I will just add is that while we will have our own people at that point in time, on that election day, taking all these pictures and sending to us, what we'll have after that, maybe on the 13th, and this is something that Michelle and I have not talked about, it just crossed my mind while we're talking, is that on the 13th, we'll be flooded with people who were not registered, but who now took pictures and said, we want to send. So on the 13th, we would have probably millions of Cameroonians telling us that we want to send you our evidence from this place. We were not covered. We didn't see our polling unit, but we have the evidence. because we took it. Maybe 5, 10 people took it, because people always take this, but they don't know what to do with it. So what I can tell you with certainty is that while we are being realistic and saying we are just looking for a representative sample by the 13th, we will have millions of Cameroonians with evidence ready to be uploaded. And all what our technicians will need to do is to be able to make sure that we can start getting those people and putting up those things, so that even if to the last polling station where someone has evidence, and they will have, we will have those results. Now, just to add something that Michelle left out, is the partners. We have recently had a partner which is in the diaspora, and is the West Cameroon Association. I think that is based in the UK. And I wanted to really appreciate them, because maybe you are going to come to that question, is how we're even funding this.
We are talking about that one. We are talking about that one in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm appreciating the West Cameroon Association, because they are the first diaspora organization that has come together and decided they want to partner with us, and they are helping us to pay for this application.
Fantastic. To be commended. Good things must be commended. So the question I wanted to ask about the technology is, the way you describe it, it's all nice, very sweet, full of optimism. What are the challenges and the hurdles you see in this technology?
I would start with the first one is obviously time frame. Now, you need, because people are being added. Of course, if we have all the numbers on the spreadsheet, then it's technology. It can be able to do that. But we have to physically also hand over these codes to the people. So there is a lot that would need to happen in a very short space of time. Now, I think this is something me thinking that I'm not a tech person, but I think that once the numbers are also done, the thing is able to send to the individual people their codes. Yeah. So actually, it's actually so.
Don't spoil the joy without being specific on the downsides of the technological problems. Let's leave it for the technicians to handle. Let's leave that one for the technicians to handle. Yeah. All right. You already alluded to this. One of the weaknesses we all know is the poll watchers could be intimidated, they could be corrupted, and they could be refused access to the polling station. Of all these three, I want us to talk only about one. If they are corrupted with money, how is that going to play out? Are you thinking about this as a risk factor?
I can take that one. The very simple answer I have for you is that for an observer, a volunteer to be corrupted, they need to be identified. Kingsley mentioned something very important. The passport to get inside the polling station is you being an elector, a voter, okay? So there will be, by definition, hundreds of voters in that polling station that day, coming and going. You don't need to introduce yourself as a volunteer for the Nation Builder project. And because you don't need to, and the counting is going to be public, but because that's what the law provides, you can do what you have to do without people knowing you are there. And that is another reason why we did not want representative inside the polling station, that is people identified as nation builders volunteers. We don't want to put them in harm's way. We don't, and remember, we are talking about people all over Cameroon, including in areas where it's not so safe to go around saying you are doing this kind of job, like Northwest, Far North, some villages where you have hostile or zealous lamidos and things like that. So the risk, for the three risks that you've identified, I think the mitigation factor is the same. We chose to send people as observers in the polling station where they are going to cast their vote. As a consequence, they are not going to disclose their capacity as observers. They don't need to. And I think that protects them from all the risks that you identify.
Fantastic. That now reduces one of the burdens on you, which is the financial burden.
Yes, also.
Also. Yeah, and just to add, that the another risk is that what if someone deliberately comes and says they want to be a volunteer with the objective of presenting a false result? That's a very big possibility. But you will not be alone in that polling unit, so you'll just be wasting your time, because, like I said, the system will be able to flag discrepancies. Now, one of the things, the key things I would want to point out is that people normally picked up these discrepancies before. In the past, that's why we know that elections were rigged. But they picked them up and they were just there on their phone, and like they could see that, oh, my polling unit, this is what happened, but what I'm seeing being reported is not reflective. But then they have nowhere to go to. Then have no one to say anything about. Now, and so when the images have been taken there, one is that the person who took them has no mechanism to actually change that. Because what if you change it and the Elecam's person doesn't change theirs? So you see, so it's already, you realize that the person will be is a act in futility to try to be this, because you don't even know what the election person is going to do, because they might not change it, so they might actually present something different. So automatically, that becomes a hurdle in someone trying to be to present false thing. One, so when ours then match that of Elecam, because the Elecam person in DOP or in Bambui did not change it because they are very honest, then automatically it matches some of the ones, and then our system corresponds with Elecam's own, and the person who try to change it would, if they can. I mean, because with technology now, you can change images easily. So we cannot underestimate the power of technology. But what I'm saying is that we are working on the issue of numbers, and the fact that also in every polling unit, you don't know who the other observer is and how many people are going to observe. You don't know that you're all from the same region, because of course they know themselves, but they don't know which polling who is at what polling unit, and how many people are going to report from there. So it's a wasted venture trying to think that you can send false results, because it will just be a waste of your time and resources. The system is going to pick that up, that discrepancy.
All right, thank you. You have alluded already to funding. I know most people will be questioning where Michelle got the money to fund this venture, or if she's doing this genuinely, or she's been sponsored by somebody to do this. So why don't you come clear about your source of money?
I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have, with challenges we've had so far. And that is the reason why we had to be so creative. I remember listening to one of our elders in the political activism, in the person of Maître Abdoulaye Arissou. And he was explaining that if you don't have the means, and by that he meant human resources and financial means, you cannot hope to win the election, because you need those means to have people around everywhere in the polling stations, etc., etc. You would need to give them food, and you need to make sure that they are corruption proof. So one of the things that we had to come up with is an approach that will free us from the burden of getting money to give to people. We've limited it to the minimum, and actually we used our own resources. We tried to get sponsors or
Grants.
international organizations, grants from international organizations. We did not get, and I quite frankly want to say how much I appreciate Kingsley and how much I appreciate all the people in the team, because I don't know how we got that far, but I am extremely proud because we are living proof that we can do things in this country without money.
Yeah.
That we managed to pull together thousands and thousands of people saying we're working together without a grant of any sort. Every single trip that I organize I start with a few thousand CFA francs, 6,000. So I will travel with the bus. So I don't have a car to drive around. I will stay in either in some compatriots places or in the Catholic accommodation center, because the prices are affordable. I mean, people come around with 100,000, 200,000. That is for the work I have been doing going around in the country. Now, the biggest effort was to fund that app, that digital solution. And that's where I have to commend someone like Vincent Nkonjok, who is a fellow compatriot, and a group of friends of his from the diaspora, and the organization that Kingsley mentioned earlier, because they've been instrumental in making that happen from a technological point of view. It's not been easy, but we've achieved, I think, quite an amazing result with without the kind of money that people would think of.
Thank you very much for that. Kingsley, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just to add that, yes, when we started, and this is something that Michelle had to deal with a lot, people will come and say, well, we are going to observe that day. What about refreshments? How do you take care of refreshments? We are going to do that. And I think one of the first responses that she said, initially when that question came, my mind went froze. I'm like this. Then suddenly Michelle just responded and said, so if you want us to pay you to be free, then we have no money to pay you to be free, because no one is paying us to do this. Suddenly, in that the chips dropped. And I've been talking to some of them, and I tell them, look, the last time I was in Cameroon was 2011, and I don't know when I'm going there again unless this system changes. That's a fact. I'm not going to Cameroon if it doesn't change. I'm not risking my life on the bad roads of Douala Yaoundé. I'm not risking my life coming to the country to take Kameko to go to another part. I'm not risking all of that. Not to say that Michelle is risking, because when she said she was leaving Ivory Coast, I first questioned it, but I said, Michelle, you are more courageous than me. So and now when I say that to them, I say, look, but this is me. This is 10 p.m. my time, almost 11 p.m. I am here talking about this. We've been working on this for 2 years. We put in little resources here and there. I said, why do you think I have to do that? Why should I do that? When you facing the pinch, you are the one that is paying taxes and not getting returns for. You are the one that is being ruled by someone who is absent. You are being ruled by proxy. Step up and do that for yourself. If you cannot do that, then you are in the wrong place. And I think many of them got that message. I think I was seeing in some of the forums, our coordinators, regional coordinators, were the ones now telling them, look, if you think that someone needs to entertain you, then maybe you're in the wrong place. You know where they give people bread and sardine. You can go there.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And that's a call to service. It's a country. I spoke with Eric Chinger recently, and I asked him a question towards this direction of media houses editorializing towards the source of income. And Eric said something that stuck with me. We have a country to serve and to save. So we need to put our energy, our resources, and our persons to save this country and to serve it. If we don't do that, we complain every day, and those who are benefiting from our sweat would continue benefiting, and we continue complaining and suffering at the same time. Yeah, so I think that is the message here. So what message do you have for our viewers and for Cameroonians in general as the last message?
For me, it's simple. I have the number of the Bâtisseurs de la Nation, nations builders. Please contact this number. It's a WhatsApp number and enroll. This is +44 7768 836187. I repeat, +44 7768 836187. Then the last time, +44 7768 836187. Let's make this happen.
Thank you very much, Merchant Doki. I'll get the link to the WhatsApp. I'll get the WhatsApp link and add it in the comments section and in the description so anybody can join, those who want to join. Kingsley, any last word for our viewers?
I just want to tell my fellow Cameroonians that there is one image that we often share and laugh about, is the image of a horse that has a rope around its neck tied to a plastic chair. That horse is standing there because its mind has been conditioned to believe that it cannot liberate itself. But that chair is actually too weak to actually hold the horse. That is the situation. That is the visual image of us Cameroonians. We are being controlled by an ailing, broken system, broken in every single aspect, right to the tilt, right to even a succession plan they don't have. It is down to us Cameroonians to liberate ourselves, and we do not need millions. We do not need guns. We do not need bullets. We do not need rioting. We need ourselves, and we need just those voter cards. It has been done in other places. It has been achieved in other places, and people continue to praise today how the people of the Gambia, the people of Senegal, the people of Ghana uses it even with their credible system. They still use parallel reporting to ensure that Liberia used it. That is why Joswaya could concede why counting was still going on, is because there was a system that was collating the results in real time. We have a unique opportunity here. We have technology at our disposal. We have social media. We have the internet. We have phones at our disposal. Let us not let this moment pass by, or we will spend the next 7 years complaining again. And unfortunately, sadly for us Cameroonians, 7 years mean a lot more of the deaths, the devastation that we see every day in our country. We cannot afford that. There is no need pretending. Anyone, nobody in their right senses will pretend that this is a fair race. If it was a fair race, like Michelle said, then out of all the candidates who came out to submit their forms, one person who should not do so would have done so. If it was a fair race, he would have actually spoken to Cameroonians. He doesn't act like the president of Cameroon. He serves foreign interests. That's why he will meet with the Papa Nuncio. He will meet with the French ambassador, but he will not take a moment to talk to Cameroonians. He does not care about you, and you are left to your own devices. We have come up with something unique here. It is down to each and every Cameroonian to make sure that we get Cameroonians the results they deserve. Let us gather together and build a country that we all want to see and we all want to live in. Thank you so much for being part of this initiative.
Thank you so much, Kingsley. I think you need 2 liters of water to calm down your guts right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this special episode of the Beyond Africa podcast with me, Ngali Mbena, your host. My guests, Mishan Doki and Kingsley Shete. It's been very interesting talking about these issues. As I've noted, this platform is to bridge the gap between the diaspora and the home, and we actually see that fine line of one person in the diaspora, that is Kingsley, working tightly with Michelle at home to achieve an objective that is guided towards good governance in Africa, in Cameroon. So this platform will not fail. We'll keep on highlighting the voices of those who are doing positive action to change the continent. We welcome you here anytime, any day, to discuss about strides that you are taking to move the continent forward. Today, we're talking about Cameroon because, as I say, the election is very important. The president is 93 years old. He's been in power for 43 years as president. Before then, he was prime minister. He was minister for about 10 years before then. And if he wins these elections, he's going to be 90 years old or 99 years old when the mandate ends. That is a milestone we have not seen anywhere, and Cameroonians are questioning if this is the right way to go. That is why Michelle and Kingsley put on this structure to help get volunteers to watch the vote and ensure that the declaration of the results reflects the results that were at the polling station. For long, Cameroonians have complained that elections have been rigged, but they have not had any evidence. If you're one of those Cameroonians who has complained that elections have been rigged, this is an opportunity for you to join the Nation Builders Initiative to get the evidence and convince all those who want to be convinced that the elections were rigged. So this is your time. Go down to the comment section, follow the WhatsApp link, follow them, join them, and contribute to building the nation. Until then, see you next time. But before I leave you, remember to like, share, comment, so that we know how we are doing and where you want us to take this podcast to. Thank you so much and see you next time.